Good morning, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day. This is Appa Brian with Appa Baseball Classics, bringing to you the wrap-up show for the Picks to Post segment of my channel. Not quite ready for baseball. I've not put up a baseball game for a while, but after tomorrow, I'll be ready for baseball. Tomorrow is the World Championship Super Bowl parade here in Kansas City, and I will be going to that. But this morning I took a walk and went over to where that parade's going to end. It's going to start at 6th and Grand, noon tomorrow, and then it will run down Grand Avenue through downtown and end up at Union Station, the site of the NFL draft in 2 months. Took a walk over there, bought this cap. I wanted to get a cap. Appa Lori bought me this T-shirt yesterday while she walked home from work. She stopped at a Rally House and picked up a T-shirt. So I went over there to Rally House at Union Station this morning and bought this cap. Winning Super Bowl 57. They're setting up before in front of the stages today. They did some of it yesterday because it's raining today. I think they still have some more to go to do the setup. World champions on the side of the link, that would be blocked off as they won't have people standing there. And now inside Union Station, you have kind of a fan fest setup where you can go there and take pictures. There is a rally house at Union Station. It's a picture for Kelsey's place. The NFL draft is coming up in 2 months at this location. Kansas City banner is up in the waiting room area. Coca-Cola, the Chiefs Kingdom photo opportunity. And lots of people going for now Chiefs world champions. They had Chiefs AFC conference champions last week. I think they might have had division champions before that up. This is Rally House. Bought a cap there, and don't tell anyone, but Appa Lori was purchased something there. Now this is the building of the ticket office, Union Station. That's what it looks like today. That's where my father worked for 40 years, 1935 through 1975. You can still ride Amtrak, and that's the area there. This is the side of Rally House. And the picture to the left is an interesting picture. Is always one that I've liked. And I will zero in on a little boy sitting on a bench in 1955. That's me. If you look straight up above me, that's my mother facing the camera. Don't know where my sister is, but my dad in those days had free passes to ride the railroad because he worked for the railroad. And I rode most every train that came in and out of Union Station at some time or other. The Katy, rode that to Texas. Rock Island, I'm sure I was on that sometime. Also rode the Burlington to Texas to see my uncle. We took a few trips to New Orleans on the Kansas City Southern. Went to Colorado on the Missouri Pacific to visit relatives. Santa Fe could take us to Chicago. I don't think I ever rode the Wabash. There were 12 trains that went in and out of Union. Yeah, actually, they cut that video off a little bit early, but there were 12 different companies that operated out of Union Station in Kansas City. And when that picture of me on the wall was about 1955, there were 250 trains in and out of Union Station every day, or about one every 6 minutes. Well, I wanted to take a minute today, and this video is not going to be long, but I want to take a minute and wrap up what we saw in the Super Bowl on Sunday. What a thrill. I saw the first Super Bowl, of course, Super Bowl I, where we got slaughtered by Green Bay in the second half of Super Bowl I. It wasn't called Super Bowl back then. It was a World Championship game. There was the AFL channel televised it, and the NFL channel televised. I think CBS was the NFL champion in those days, and I watched. I think the NFL side of it. And then Super Bowl IV, which was the thrill of my life, and had to fuel me and my love for football for 50 years until Super Bowl 54 and Patrick Mahomes, and now Super Bowl 57. Had a pick show on the Super Bowl, and we had special guests. Sportsman Z was with us. Anthony Crooks from Bleacher Bums Gaming, the author of Glory Days Boxing and now Glory Days College Football. He was with us, and Red Sox fans. I don't suppose you probably watch pick shows after the fact, but it would be worth going back to. I know it was a long show, but everybody had a lot of insight on the Super Bowl and a lot of great things to say. In particular, one thing that really caught on me from Al, Red Sox fan, he talked about how teams should double team Kelce. Philadelphia did do that as much more than Jacksonville did in the playoffs. But it's still, even with everybody double teams, almost everybody double teams Kelce, and they have special plans for him, but we have special ways to get him open, and he usually gets open, and he contributed in the Super Bowl. But the other thing that Al Red Sox mentioned was that there are obviously things that we do off of that they're going to need to look at. And I think Philadelphia maybe didn't look at the things that we do off of extra measures that teams take off of Kelce, is because we got away with a lot of easy things, particularly the 2 touchdowns from the one, first of all, with Kadarius Toney wide open in the end zone from the red zone, and also Sky Moore on the other side, same play, ran on the other side. I think that's a play that probably they got from Doug Peterson. Jacksonville did that to Philadelphia, and I don't know if Peterson called. He would never say this, but I don't know if he called Andy Reid. They used to work together and suggested that, or Andy Reid just found that. I imagine every NFL team has coaches to self-criticize themselves, but I think Philadelphia came up short there. They should have looked at that Jacksonville touchdown, where the receiver was also wide open in that, and thought, well, maybe Kansas City might try that too. And that's what we did. We did run some trick plays. I didn't think we would see a snow globe play when we ran a snow globe play. It didn't work. We ran another trick play early in the game, I think on the first or second drive, where Juju Smith and Travis Kelce lined up wide and kind of lifted up their hands and acted like they didn't have the play. And during that delay, the ball was snapped and we made about an 8-yard gain. So a bit of a trick play there, reminiscent of one that was played against my high school when I was an athletic director in California. I was an athletic director in a small high school in Los Angeles. This was the playoffs, and we were playing at a school called Pilgrim High School. This would be back in the Stone Age, back in the early 80s. And they ran a play where they were going to kick a field goal. Field goal kicker, they got in the formation. The field goal kicker got up and started walking to this sideline asking for the tee that he forgot to bring. And at that time, they snapped the ball and threw a touchdown pass. So that was a very innovative trick play. That play the Chiefs ran kind of reminds me of something along that. Most pick shows before the Super Bowl went with the Eagles. The media, especially on Sunday, watched all the media shows on Sunday. And, they had all their analysts, almost all of them, were picking Philadelphia. And I think millions of people just couldn't get it beyond their heads that Mahomes would be close to 100% and be able to function on that sprained ankle. Mahomes did pretty well on that sprained ankle. He's still standing on that sprained ankle. But, yeah, you can run straight forward on a high ankle sprain. Other things are going to be painful, but he is the kind of guy that's going to tough it out and get through it. And he did. I think there were three of the plays were the biggest plays for the Chiefs. Bolton with a scoop and score, about a 40-yard scoop and score when Jalen Hurts, who was the best player on the field, by the way, in that Super Bowl. When Hurts fumbled the ball, Bolton picked it up, ran for a touchdown. Also had another one, wasn't sure about that other one. I thought the guy had caught the ball, and he certainly started to make a step, but it wasn't enough of a football move to satisfy the officials, so that was called back. Or Bolton would have been probably the Super Bowl MVP with 2 scoop and score touchdowns. The other big plays in the game was Kadarius Toney's punt return, and I've been saying for weeks that's something that he can do in his sleep. As in practice, he had fancy ways of catching punts, and it's just easy for him. And he made that. And I've been talking about how he runs the ball. He kind of looks to me like Gale Sayers the way he runs the ball. And I did a video about that on one of our Picks to Post shows a few weeks ago. So he had to break that first tackle and get away from the initial onslaught, and then he went around to the other side of the field, and that set up a wall of blocking. And I think that was the other one of the 3 big plays in that game. Third big play, of course, is Mahomes' rush for 26 yards there in the fourth quarter on our last drive. Going into the game, we were very concerned about the officials and the fact that Jeffers throws lots of flags. He was by far the most in the NFL this past season, but somehow it looks like he was instructed to swallow the flag this week, and they didn't throw many flags. Chiefs had 3 penalties, I think. Philadelphia had 4. Those penalties were big penalties, and it's unfortunate that the game ended with that last holding call. If you're the referee, you see holding, he tugged his jersey, he turned his hip, and maybe he would have caught that pass if the route was not interrupted. Hate to see the game in that way. But think about that play. On that play, the defensive back, I believe that was Bradbury, knowing they had linebacker help to the inside, should have lined up on the outside of Juju Smith-Schuster and taken away that outside route from him. I think it would have gone better, and he wouldn't have had to hold him. When he got beat on the first step, that's when the jersey tug happened. And then here's the other thing. The Chiefs are trying to score a touchdown. If he scores that touchdown, this is thinking of it from Philadelphia's standpoint, then they get the ball back with a couple minutes left and 2 timeouts left, and Hurts could take them down the field and score a touchdown, and very well could go for 2. That would be a gutsy call. But they had already had a 2-point conversion in the Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts. Nobody has stronger legs at quarterback than Jalen Hurts. So Kansas City was kind of playing with fire by going for a touchdown on that play. And Philadelphia was playing with fire by not allowing that touchdown to happen. I thought Greg Olsen had a spectacular day as an analyst calling the game, and he pointed out subsequently to that play that Kansas City needed to get a first down but not score a touchdown and give the ball back to Philadelphia with time left on the clock. And that play came into the huddle, the play for Jet McKinnon. He was cautioned, don't score the touchdown. And I think that's a very selfless move on Jet McKinnon, because who wouldn't want to score a touchdown in the Super Bowl and be able to celebrate that for the rest of their life? When McKinnon did what he was supposed to do, he's a veteran, so valuable to this team. I think in regular season, he led the backs in touchdown passes in the NFL. And he took it to the 1-yard line, took a knee. Philadelphia was going to let him score it to get the ball back. He takes a knee at the 1. And the Chiefs from there were able to run out the clock. Well, if you were in the Neely household during that time, this is maybe what you were to see. Didn't get to have a big Super Bowl party like we normally do. The last Super Bowl, we had our family over, my son-in-law Dan Mattingly and his kids, and my daughter Susanna. They were at the time living in Kansas City. Now they live in Western Kansas. We could only text back and forth during this Super Bowl. But Justin, who used to be on the Picks for Post Show last year, and maybe we'll be able to do that again next year, depending on schedules, he was with us, and we had a beloved neighbor that we love very much. She was with us as well. But this is what it looked like when Kansas City won on Sunday night.
All the way down.
Oh, we got to start that video over and see if I have a way to do that. There we go.
Here we go.
Oh, get him! Come on!
Complete. That's it. Yeah! All right, yeah! Don't fall off the balcony. Don't fall.
That's what it was like in the Neely household as the Chiefs took their third Super Bowl win on Sunday night. Now, on the rest of this video, there's a lot more NFL to go. We had some friends over on Thursday night who are huge baseball fans, and I think he was a little bit put out that I'm not thinking about baseball. I'm thinking Super Bowl 3 days before the Super Bowl. We talked a little bit of baseball, and I know I have a lot of baseball fans on my baseball channel, APA Baseball Classics, and we're going to get back to baseball most likely Thursday. We'll get back to the King of the Hill tournament that I've been rolling, and but for now, my thoughts are on the Chiefs and also going forward in the Super Bowl or this as far as the NFL goes. You got the NFL Combine coming up in 2 weeks on March 2nd and 3rd. That's a huge, huge day. Those 2 days, that's the start of college football dreams. And that's where we find surprises really coming up in the draft. And also that Combine does a lot to – I think that's where the Chiefs found Isaiah Pacheco. They were impressed with his speed, 7th-round draft boys, who – was huge for us this year and huge in the Super Bowl with I think at least 75 yards carrying. The Chiefs ran the ball in that Super Bowl for 6.1 yards per carry. I think that's where they found Pacheco. One more thought about wrapping up the Super Bowl. Most everyone on my channel was picking the Eagles because they thought their offensive line was much better. It was a lot better than Kansas City's offensive line. But I pointed out on the show that the Chiefs have only allowed 26 sacks in this season, whereas Philly allowed 44 sacks. Lane Johnson hasn't given up a sack in a couple of years. Mailata is a beast at left tackle from Australia. And Jason Kelce is the best center in football. But I was not so quick to say that their offensive line was way better than the Chiefs. We ran the ball for 6.1 yards per carry. Philadelphia only got 3 yards per carry other than Jalen Hurts. Hurts was good. I think he had about 70 yards rushing. I don't think there's anything you can do to stop that except put a spy on Hurts, which the Chiefs did not do very much of. Some teams do, but then that, you can get outnumbered elsewhere on the field when you've got somebody always spying on the quarterback. You're playing 11 on 11 football. Most teams would rather play 11 on 10 football. And the Chiefs would be included in that. But anyway, the Combine's coming up in 2 weeks. I watched that. I think it's fun to watch to see who's really the fastest, who can really jump the highest and run, lift the most. And then in 2 months comes up the NFL draft. And on this short video, I want to go through and spread some Valentine's love and maybe some tough love to the NFL teams. One thing I do before the draft is I take my helmets and I put them in, I'm going to put them in this box here so that I know the order and can look at that and think about the NFL draft coming up. I've already had some thoughts about the draft, And I think Chicago is going to be in just about the best position in the NFL draft. They got the first pick. The Bears, they could trade that pick. And actually, coming up to now, I've been kind of thinking that's what they would do. They don't need a quarterback, but they could turn that pick into multiple picks. Or they can go for the best defender out there. They need defensive help big time. They traded away Roquan Smith. They traded away another top defender. And their defense just took a dive after that. But, Will Anderson will be out there. He's an edge rusher. Maybe they'll take Will Anderson or Jalen Carter, defensive tackle from Georgia, who can also rush the passer and stop the run. So I think Chicago has the best position in the draft. Houston Texans are next. Everyone kind of thinks that they're going to go for Bryce Young, a quarterback, but I'm not sure they really need a quarterback. I think Davis Mills has some possibilities. He didn't have a lot to throw to. They got a running back there. They're across the board short on talent, so I think they should just draft the best player probably on defense that's available in the draft. If not the best wide receiver, I do think they need help at wide receiver. Arizona is coming up third. Arizona needs defensive line help with the retirement of J.J. Watt. Either Jalen Carter will be available in that third pick, or Will Anderson, depending on how Chicago and Houston go. One of those two should be available and would be a great help to the Arizona Cardinals. Indianapolis, maybe a little, by the way, I like the Bears. I'm a Bears fan. I'm not a Cardinals fan. Kind of like the Texans. Never have been a big fan of the Indianapolis Colts, mainly because I'm not a big Irsay fan, the owner. But please give the new coach, Shane Steichen, more than a year. And if you have to go get a quarterback, which you probably should, think about C.J. Stroud. The next pick, the fifth pick of the draft, came from Denver, and it goes to Seattle. I don't know what a year they had for Geno Smith. Now let's help Geno on defense. Look for an edge rusher or somebody like Tyree Wilson of Texas Tech. The next pick in the draft was given up by Los Angeles Rams to Detroit. Who got the better of that deal? Matthew Stafford or Jared Goff? Lori says, Happy Valentine's Day. And yes, I bought the hat, Lori. I did. I wanted that hat. Next, we have the Detroit Lions. Plays defensive backfield help, corner or safety, probably cornerback first. The defensive backs. Aiden Hutchinson was a great pick last year. Get him some help on the back end. I don't have anything lovely to say about the Las Vegas Raiders. I have never been a fan of Vegas or Oakland when they were there ever since they piled on Lenny Dawson. By the way, kudos to Patrick Mahomes for wearing a Lenny Dawson sweatshirt in pregame warmups before the Super Bowl with Lenny Dawson's image and number on the back of his sweatshirt. Not a fan of the Raiders. Go ahead and roll the dice. Pick Will Levis, quarterback of Kentucky. See how that works out. Next, we have the Atlanta Falcons. I kind of like the Falcons team. Much love to them. Get some defensive back help. Joey Porter Jr. maybe of Penn State. He is a taller, athletic cornerback who's pretty tough and a good cover guy. He'd be a good way to go. Carolina Panthers pick next. Kind of shame on Carolina for not hiring Steve Wilkes. Was a Panthers fan when they had Christian McCaffrey. Not so much now. Next pick is New Orleans to the Philadelphia Eagles. Next to the Chicago Bears, the Philadelphia Eagles are in a great position in this draft. They've got two first-round picks. They've got some free agents that they're going to have to deal with. I think they may have two free agents in the secondary. I know Bradshaw is one of those. Or do I have that right? Bradbury. Bradbury is a free agent pick. So I think you should be thinking defensive back, Philadelphia. I think you should also think about defensive run help. That's the only Achilles heel you had this year. Some teams were able to run on you, including the Chiefs, for 6.1 yards per carry. Jordan Davis is coming. You drafted Jordan Davis last year at defensive tackle. He had a good Super Bowl when he was out there. But, Ndamukong Suh is kind of older. I think the other defensive tackle is older. They need to think about interior defensive line run-stopping help, as well as replacing that free agent. And the other thing about Philadelphia, it's time to pay Jalen. His free agency is coming up, I think, after next year. All right, for the Tennessee Titans, who are next, Tennessee Titans, please, no more draft day disasters where you trade away A.J. Brown and upset your coach on draft day. Don't do that again. Paris Johnson should be there, an offensive lineman to protect Tannehill. Ohio State, he might be a great way to go. And with Llewellyn retiring, you need an offensive tackle, I think. Once again, Houston has a good position. They've got the second pick in the draft, and Houston has the 12th pick as well. Texans. More defensive help. Just get the two best defensive players that you can come up with, unless there is a wide receiver you really, really got to have. New York Jets are next. Okay, the New York Jets, assuming you get your quarterback, and they might be getting their quarterback as we speak right now. Derek Carr is out there. Kudos to Derek Carr for putting it on his former team. I mean, why would you want to get traded for and have a team that's signing you give up assets to get you when you could just wait it out and get cut payday? So, the Raiders have a choice to either pay you $40 million or waive you, and I'm sure they have, if not already waived him, he's waived and already talking about who to sign with. Now, that could be the Jets. Could be somebody like New Orleans that he visited. Could be a number of teams. But you are definitely in the driver's seat there. The Jets, assuming that you've got your quarterback by now or by the end of today or tomorrow, you could look for another offensive tackle. I love the way your offense – by the way, the Jets are one of my favorite teams. I love the way your offensive line blocked with leverage. You were very much like the Eagles' offensive line, how they blocked with tremendous leverage. And, adding somebody like Osiris Torrance, an offensive tackle from Florida, who's bigger than some of the guys you've got, that might be a great choice for them. Well, for New England, they're next. They could think about giving the new OC, Bill O'Brien, offensive help. How about a wide receiver like Quentin Johnson of TCU, kind of a big 50-50 guy? Tough to tackle. There'll be some yards after catch with him. Don't let the national championship game scare you away from Quentin Johnson. Look at his body of work through the season. He's got real possibilities in the NFL. Next up is Green Bay. They've got decisions to make after Aaron Rodgers gets out of his dark room, and I'm sure that's what they're waiting on. What does Rodgers want to do? You can't let Jordan Love languish and sit not playing for year after year after year. He sat for 3 years. I do think he's a guy. I've got higher regard of Jordan Love than I do, say, Trey Lance at San Francisco. He showed in the second half of the Chiefs-Packers game this past year he's got some possibilities that he can play. It's time to cross that Rubicon and give the ball to Jordan Love and let Rodgers go where he wants to go or retire if that's what the darkness tells him to do. Next up is Washington. There's a guy named Witherspoon in Illinois. You might think he's not big enough to be a defensive back like you might want, but he plays bigger than he is. I've watched him play through at least a few times this past year, and Witherspoon is an NFL cornerback. I think he'd be a great pick for Washington needing help in the secondary. Pittsburgh Steelers are up next. They've got a need on the offensive line. If you want to make that pick from last year, Kenny Pickett, pay off, protect him. Get somebody who can block for him on the offensive line. He did not have enough time this past year. This pick should definitely go to an offensive lineman. Detroit gets their second pick in the draft next. Once again, they need defensive help in the secondary. We've already talked about that. But Deontay Banks, defensive back from Maryland, may still be available at this point. He's a big physical corner and really help Detroit's secondary. So that's the first part of the draft. And I'll set that up in my room and take a look at these draft picks in the order that they are so that I can kind of put my thoughts together. One of the most fun things I did last year was the draft show on Rob Kinsler's channel, Rob ! Where we pick who we think each team is going to pick in the first round. We got 5 minutes, just like the teams have, to make up our minds. And you got to be light on your feet because trades happen, needs change just like that. I had 11 of the 32 picks correct last year. Let's see if I can do better than that this year. And Rob, if you're watching this video, stay in touch with me. I want to do a draft pick show from here. The draft is, after all, across the street, and there are balconies on the other side of the building where I could probably set up a camera and view the draft while we're doing the picks. If you go to sportkc.org, you can see pictures of how the setup is going to be for the draft in April. I think that's April 23rd. Starts on a Thursday. And there are several balconies from my building that have great views of that area. So I really want to do the draft show from my channel, and I'd love to have you and your mates join me on my channel. But we haven't talked about that yet. Contact me on email. Let's talk about it. Next up in the draft is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Never have been a Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan, especially after Super Bowl 55. Will never be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan. I hated that Super Bowl. I hated that it was in the city of a team that's playing. That city was not accommodating to Chiefs fans, not in the least. And we had to go in that game with a banged up offensive line. Had horrible thoughts about that, and I'll never rewatch that game. Mahomes just had to drop deep and deeper and run all over the field to try to survive. All right, next up is the Seattle Seahawks. They have 2 first-round picks, and I think they need defensive help. I think they need defensive line help up front. So think of Seattle. They got their quarterback, Geno Smith, gets the defensive help. If not, maybe more offensive line help to protect Geno Smith. All right, the next pick was supposed to be the Miami Dolphins. Shame on the Miami Dolphins. You forfeited your pick. You were cheating. All right, next up is the Los Angeles Chargers. I think you could use an offensive tackle like Anton Harrison. maybe pick him before the Chiefs get him. I think the Chiefs might be thinking seriously about an offensive tackle, depending on what they do with Orlando Brown. We were thinking here that they would probably let Orlando Brown go, but from about midseason on, Orlando Brown's play picked up, and he was great in the Super Bowl, great in the AFC Championship game. His one trouble was these bendable, fast edge rushers. He gave up a few sacks to those type of edge rushers, but he totally dominated Hendrickson in the AFC conference game. Philadelphia didn't hurt him in the Super Bowl, so Chiefs might want to franchise tag and keep that line together. Baltimore is a mess, but if you think about what they could do with a backfield of Lamar Jackson, J.K. Dobbins, and Bijan Robinson, ponder that for a while. He'll probably be available from University of Texas at the 22 spot. Minnesota is up next. Definitely need defensive line help. I think they've got great linebackers there. A couple of mock drafts I've seen have them picking a linebacker. I wouldn't do that. They've got 5 guys who are very, very capable linebackers. They really need defensive line help and defensive secondary help in Minnesota. Jacksonville is up next, and Dwan Jones, the other offensive tackle at Ohio State, I think he's coming out for the draft. He's 6'8", 360. Might be a bit of a project, but he may be somebody that you can build around on that offensive line to protect Trevor Lawrence. New York Giants are next. I love the Giants are one of my favorite teams. They always have been. Going into next season, I've got some love for the Jets and the Giants, as well as the Detroit Lions. And give Brian Daboll somebody to throw the football to. They found some wide receivers toward the end of the season, but it was a struggle getting there. Jalen Hyatt of Tennessee may be available in this spot. He would be a great pick for the New York Giants. Dallas Cowboys are up next. Not a fan. Not a fan of Jerry Jones. Not a fan of the Dallas Cowboys. Not a fan that you're going to make Mike McCarthy your offensive coordinator. Now, I know they've hired Brian Schottenheimer, but McCarthy, I think, is going to be calling the plays. I'm just not big on that. They probably need a wide receiver, and that might be where they go. The Buffalo Bills are next. I've been saying it for years. Buffalo, you need to get more physical and tougher up front. You got a beast of a linebacker in Milano. But get somebody who can edge rush, somebody who can run stuff on that defensive line. There was no pass rush in the AFC divisional game. You got to get somebody who can make your team more physical, which is what we've been calling for 3 years. And also, Josh Allen has got to tone it down just a little bit. He cannot play as much hero ball as he has been playing. Next up are the Cincinnati Bengals. Never been a fan, especially now after all the trash talk of what we heard before the AFC Championship game. But with Cincinnati, Broderick Jones, offensive lineman from Georgia, he might be available. And I do think you need more security for Joe Burrow. Then you got New Orleans. They are one of my favorite teams. Love their uniforms. And I always liked Sean Payton, except for when he was putting bounties on quarterbacks. That was a little bit of a rough spot there. But I thought Sean Payton was a great coach for you at New Orleans. And then always was a Drew Brees fan. I was a Drew Brees fan since he was in Purdue. And watching Purdue games with my brother-in-law, who lives in Ohio, watching Brees beat his beloved Ohio State Buckeyes back in his college days. New Orleans gets this pick from San Francisco. I think you need some running back help. Kamara did not have a great year last year. He caught the ball okay, but the running was not great. Running back help or wide receiver help might be on order for New Orleans. Once again, we already talked about the Eagles. and they've got their second pick of the draft at 31. And then at 32 are the Chiefs. What could the Chiefs use? Probably whatever this guy wants. Patrick Mahomes. I love how the Chiefs have approached their drafts in the past. Last year was a fantastic draft for Kansas City. We had 10 rookies on this football team. We had 24 new faces on the team, and maybe 14 were rookies. At least 10 were rookies, and all the rookies contributed through the season, and especially in the AFC conference game, every one of the rookies had a play in the conference championship game. And then we got a touchdown from Sky Moore. Willie Gay played great in the is it Gay's first year or second year? It might be his. It's his second year. But Pacheco was a rookie who really contributed in that championship game and through the season. He didn't start right away. It was a few games before he got going. He had a great year, and for when he played, he can pile up the stats. I love the way he runs. It's just all knees and elbows. And who wants to tackle that? And he is very, very fast. But what do the Chiefs need going forward? I still think they need an offensive tackle. Andrew Wiley had a super Bowl game, and he has progressed. He had a great year for us, number 77. And he may continue progressing. We don't need a left guard. He's all pro. We don't need a center. He's all pro. But depending on what we do with Orlando Brown, we may need an offensive tackle with our first pick. If we secure Orlando Brown, and by the way, we do have some cap space. So there's a lot of flexibility going forward for Kansas City. And if these rookies improve over the year for their second year, the way, say, Noah Gray did, Noah Gray was lost his first year as a rookie, backup tight end to Kelsey. But he was really good. He was really plugged in this next year, and his second year was a huge leap forward. So I'm thinking these rookies, they may take another huge leap forward. They got a lot of playing time this past season, third most of rookies in the NFL. Chicago had more rookies than we did playing. And there was one other team out there that had more rookies. We were third. And if these guys all step up in their second year and improve, we're pretty good across the board. So at this point, if that's the case, I think we should think wide receiver in the draft, or just the next best available guy, character-wise and athletic-wise. That would be, I think, a good draft pick for us. So just some opening Valentine's thoughts. Love to some teams, tough love to some other teams. King Tuan Gaming has joined us. Hi, King Tuan. Thanks for joining us. This was kind of a wrap-up show for the Super Bowl. And I don't want to go long, but I wanted to just set some thoughts going into the NFL draft, which is in 2 months. And by the way, if you're thinking about coming to the NFL draft, it's a great time. It really is, because you get to see fans from all the other teams. So you'll see all the NFL jerseys walking around, and you get to talk with them about their thoughts and who they hope they draft, their team drafts. They're expecting as many as 300,000 people coming into Kansas City for that draft. I don't know what Vegas had last year, but a lot of people went to Vegas. It's worth it to come to Kansas City. There is sports gambling in Kansas City. You don't have to go to Vegas if you want to sports gamble. There is hotels within walking distance of Union Station where it will be. The Westin Crown Center is just on the other side of this building where I live. You're literally, 100 yards away from where the draft is going to be. And several nearby hotels where you could stay and walk to the NFL draft. So think about that. I would think quickly and get those rooms that are close by. And if you do come to Kansas City and you are a subscriber to my channel, let me know on my channel that you're coming. Would love to see you during the days of the NFL draft. All right, I think that's going to wrap up the show. We didn't talk about the 4 teams that don't have a draft. San Francisco does have to figure out who's going to play quarterback there. The quarterback shuffle is on. Jimmy G is out there. I think you got more than a quarterback to fix. I mean, that team is, you got the best roster in San Francisco, but I'm not sure the best attitudes on that team. Jimmy G was on the sideline just yucking it up and laughing all day long while his team was getting their heads handed to him by the Eagles. That was not a good look. So I can see why Shanahan does not want to keep Jimmy G as a quarterback, and I think he's gone. It's time to go to Trey Lance until Brock Purdy is available, and you got to go back to Brock Purdy. I mean, after all, he is undefeated in the games that he could play. So, yeah, San Francisco has some work cut out for them. And you got the Rams, who kind of needs a total rebuild, but they should have cap space to do it. No draft picks in the first round because of the Stafford trade. And I'm not sure the Rams are going to even stay with Stafford. It'll be interesting going forward if Stafford gets into that quarterback shuffle. Broncos have cast their lot with Sean Payton. He is a terrific coach. They've got a terrific defense, and they've got some stars on that team that they can work with, receivers. It's just, can you get Russell Wilson back to being Russell Wilson? I don't know. I think that's what you have to do. And if you can't, you got the money to cut that contract and go some other direction with the owners that they have. The Browns, I know Cleveland fans who don't like the Browns. So I don't know what could help this franchise. Is stuck with Deshaun Watson. I think they cast their lot with him, and I think they're going to be paying for that in the years to come. Watson was basically awful. Maybe the last game or two he showed some signs of being okay, but I'm not real confident of the future with Deshaun Watson. So now we have the draft picks in my next. Actually, I got that camera's down in my next box in order, so I can take a look at all my helmets and think about the upcoming draft and getting ready for that draft show coming up. I think April 23rd, just 2 months away. All right, thanks for watching. Y'all have a good day, and may God bless.